Hey guys, welcome back to the Roman Rodez YouTube channel. I'm Roman.
I'm Rodez, and this is a medley.
It's a medley, a little short for y'all. I was thinking the other day how society's perception of smoking has changed. Of course, that's in the news a lot.
Massively.
I showed my daughter Ghostbusters a few weeks back for the first time.
They're very responsible parenting. It's a terrifying movie in it.
She enjoyed it, but the one thing that caught me off guard, besides all the scares and all the language that I didn't remember, was how much they smoked in that movie.
Yeah, whenever he's walking down, when he finds Slimer for the first time, his Dan Aykroyd's character is walking around the hallway with a cigarette in a hotel room.
Yes.
And I don't know if that was supposed to be part of like they don't really care attitude too, because I think cigarette smoking was allowed in certain rooms, but you had to be on a special floor.
Yeah.
And certain rooms were smoking. I've been in smoking rooms and they are horrible. The ceilings are yellow. And he walks around the corner, sees Slimer, and he drops a cigarette out of his mouth. That was a big gag that they used in a lot of movies in the time, was when someone was shocked watching the cigarette fall out. That was the funny bit.
That was a funny gag. And I noticed now there was a trailer that I saw for a recent movie. I can't remember which one. But in the rating system, it says, has harsh language, has violence, and it has historical smoking.
I've seen that in a few movies too. They re-air the old ones on TV. They have that tagline.
Yeah, and I know I've never been a smoker. I know a lot of people who are. I don't know what your relationship is.
No, when we were in South Texas, and most of our everybody, I swear, with the exception of a few scattered pots throughout America, most people know a good amount of smokers.
Yes. And it was kind of a surprise when we saw in the news earlier that Philip Morris, one of the biggest cigarette companies in the world,
the creators of Marlboro
cigarettes,
the Marlboro Man, and like the quintessential American brand of smoking.
Yeah, they put out a headline that said that their New Year's resolution was to quit cigarettes.
Yeah, and now actually that I dug a little deeper, and this doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to stop making cigarettes altogether, because they didn't say we're going to stop making cigarettes. What they said is they're going to start focusing on alternatives, which I'm assuming to mean that they said they had 4 alternatives listed. Yeah, number 4. But the only thing I can think of is vaping.
But they didn't give them. They just said they had 4 alternatives.
As far as I know, they have yet, as of the making of this, we did as much research as we could, and it's still very light on the details. Now, I imagine maybe they're going to start focusing more on getting people to chew the gum recreationally, the Nicorette gums that have nicotine in them.
But that's supposed to stop you from smoking, to stop using that. I mean, right?
The first time I ever saw it used, it was like, I know there were some companies, I think China or Japan, that would just put it in regular chewing gum. I actually had some of that as a kid. I would go to this little corner store, and they had this little chewing gum, and I just loved it. Even though I didn't like the taste of it, I would always go back to it.
Craved it.
And I stopped carrying it. Everywhere stopped carrying it. I was like, "What this?" And I was upset. It was the first time I was upset about something. It wasn't until decades later when my mother tried quitting cigarettes, and she started buying the nicotine gum that you would pop out of the little tablet ones, and the smell of it hit me, and I was like, that was the same bubble gum. And it was as a little kid I had nicotine gum. Look it up if you don't believe me. But, and I'm really legit, it wasn't a chain store. This was like a little bodega shop on the corner that I was to go get like my big red popsicle, my dill pickle, some chamoy candies, like stuff like that.
Well, one of the things now that I notice is they have chocolate bars that have caffeine in it, that have like coffee flavor, that have extra caffeine. It's supposed to be like an energizer bar. And my daughter almost picked one up. She was looking at the candy. She goes, I want a candy. And she picked that one. I said, you can't have that one because of that caffeine. So I guess maybe that's the same thing.
Maybe you think they're going to make like a nicotine drink or something? Do you think?
That's an interesting idea. I don't know how much I like it, but it's an interesting idea.
Because that would just be sort of a quick shot of nicotine, where I think it seems like most of the nicotine processes, it's more of a thing to do. So it's like, vaping, smoking, dipping, chewing, including bubble gum. And pipe, all that, it's its own little ritual, which is also one of the things that makes it such a hard habit to break.
Yeah.
It's basically you have this thing that you sit down, and it's like your time to relax. I know a lot of people who work, there's sometimes the only breaks they'd get would be cigarette breaks, because enough people understood that you need your nicotine, that they'd let you take a break outside, which is funny. Like, nobody understands that you also just might need to stop working for a little bit because you're not a robot. That I don't understand.
There was a study that came out a couple years ago that said that people who, even with their phones, take like 5 minute breaks or even a few second breaks in between work to do little things on their phone, like play a game, it makes them more productive. Yeah.
Oh,
so maybe that's the whole thing behind that is we needed just those little moments to kind of zone out or do something else that makes us more productive.
I get that, but okay. So to take it back to cigarettes,
yes.
The way so whenever first tobacco started being regularly used, I think it was a little bit more. First mostly used by Native Americans in rituals. Around certain times of the year. It wasn't really a regular thing that they would do all the time because in order to smoke it, you needed a pipe at the time, and that's how smoking was for the longest time. You needed a pipe, but it was only until I don't know when later, but eventually they started making papers that you could smoke it in, or sometimes they would just wrap whatever and you could smoke it like that. Or dipping was pretty popular too in a lot of areas. Even in the like the gentrified classes, there'd be like it wasn't considered seemly for women to be, I bet there was though in some areas where you could like be a woman and have dip. And I know they had like special design little spittoons. The spittoon, like if you're ever watching old school cowboy movies, that's what it's called. That is what it's called. Like a special jar or vase that they could spit into. But some people, they would have, it looked like a flask without a top that you could use to spit in. And they're specially designed to, hold your spit, and that way, you could just, it was that common basically. Whereas now dipping is a lot less common, but it did start getting pop up with a lot of younger users because cigarette use was seen in the negative light after a while because secondhand smoke is one of the big things about it. Also, smoking can do a lot of damage to the area around you. Like I said, it could stain, the tar in it can stain pretty much everything. It can stain your ceiling, your walls, your clothes. And if you've ever seen somebody who has a beard or mustache, it can turn that yellow over time.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's pretty common down here.
And then the other thing is, with the health risks and everything, heard start a lot.
The reason kids would do dip is because you could do it in class without getting noticed. And
I didn't think about that.
And also too,
see, I wasn't smart enough to be that
fancy with their brains and stuff, man. But dipping tobacco tends to have a lot more nicotine in it. Most of the forms, I think the processed forms, they'll add nicotine to it. But there's certain types where it's just the leaves layered down, and that's just pretty much got whatever's in the leaf naturally. It's a really interesting thing to go into, like tobacco in general. Yeah, it's
an interesting history, and the history with a lot of drama and
a lot
of information.
Very much, like they know that all the health risks. Whatever, we're pretty much learning that everything that's enjoyable is horrible for you if you're pregnant. Anything that's enjoyable is horrible for you if you do it too much. Yeah, and also too. The big, you're adding smoke to your lungs, and they had all the chemicals in it. Yes. And in general, even with vaping, we're starting to learn that just breathing in hot air can do a lot of damage to your lungs.
That's a thing that a lot of people are saying that vaping doesn't have any negative effects, but there's people saying, wait a minute, they're just as harmful as cigarettes because of the nicotine that's in there. And I think there's some confusion.
There's a middle ground, I believe. I don't believe they're as harmful. Now, here's the thing. They weren't as they definitely had not as bad, but their nicotine is still a chemical you're putting in your body. You're still breathing in hot air. But as the first people that made e-cigarettes, they tended to be very well designed. But now that more people are starting to get into it, there's been some issues with malfunction. Sometimes
shoddy
equipment, and sometimes also too the juices that there's a liquid that you add basically to a little cotton part inside the e-cigarette. Then there's a coil around it that heats it up, and all the different mechanisms basically use that function. So you have to choose ones that are using good liquids that don't have too many additives to it, because whereas before the companies that made it were pretty much like, okay, this is the product we're going to make it with the best standards, and then afterwards other people are like, we can jump in this business too, and didn't care as much, or they didn't have the technology to process it as well. Yeah. And then also to the electronics, I mean, it's like, there's been issues where people's batteries exploded on them. Or
I've seen videos of that. It's horrible.
Yeah, explosions are bad, especially when in your face. You don't want to be holding a battery in your mouth while it explodes. But
so Philip Morris now, I mean, it seems like one of the things they're going to move towards is vaping these e-cigarettes. So we'll see what happens, in the future. See what happens, going to go on, and what this is going to affect, how this is going to affect the smoking culture.
They're definitely going to be. I think we should do a few more of these, just because there's like a wide range of it. Because one of the laws against cigarettes was that they're not allowed to have fruit flavors, because they thought that would be enticing children too much. They're only allowed to have menthol flavors, and they found ways over time to add different flavorings. But that same law does not apply to e-cigarettes, and that's why it is actually more difficult to find menthol or original tobacco flavored e-cigarettes than it is to find the fruity flavors.
I can see that. I know that, and I know there's a vape shop that just opened here in Lytle. And I've been wanting just to go in and just look around and ask questions. Maybe that's.
But we're gonna have to cover that next time, guys. It's the end of our show. Thanks, Roman Rodez Medley. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. You guys are awesome.
Thank you for watching. And please hit that subscribe button.
Boop. Well, there's the time of the minutes, but I think it's still got a little bit to go.
That was working.
I didn't want to cut you off, but I also didn't want it to be like.
No, it's good.